He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast Vue with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome to Coast Vue, the show that celebrates the men and women of coastal Mississippi who are making the world a better place to live, work, and play. And this also goes for Mississippi as well. I want you to enjoy today's show because it's a historic day for Coast Vue. We have four former governors of the great state of Mississippi all at the same time. Governor Mabus, Governor Ronnie Musgrove, Governor Haley Barbour, and Governor Phil Bryant. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's great to see all of you. The governors are joining in the effort to build a new fund that was brought to Mississippi by Marie and Brian Sanderson of Ocean Springs. Marie and Brian are entrepreneurs who've worked in both the public sector and the private sector, and they're involved in multiple businesses that do work across the U.S. They sort of personify what it means to leverage relationships for in a time of need for the betterment of Mississippi, and essentially believing in the principle of paying it forward. And they both have joined us as well today. Good morning, Brian and Marie.
Morning, Ricky. Morning, Governor.
Good to see you guys. We had a Coast Vue session with Brian and Marie last week. So if you want to see the extended discussion, a little bit more about how the fund came to be, et cetera, you can go to this video at the SuperTalk Gulf Coast Facebook page or at the SuperTalk Mississippi Facebook page, and you'll see a link to the original conversation that we had with them about the fund. Also, you should know that we're using Zoom today, so we don't have all the bells and whistles we normally have. That accounts for why, if you're watching this on YouTube and Facebook, it looks a little bit different. Let me kind of give you the headlines, though, on the Mississippi 30-Day Fund. It's a nonprofit organization that provides forgivable loans to Mississippi-based small businesses. It's a forgivable loan, so it's intended to be given to small businesses that have immediate financial need. So, we all know that they're reopening, and they're navigating this new sort of social and economic reality as a result of the pandemic. And this fund is meant to help them sort of get through that in the beginning. Marie and Brian are handling, with some help from volunteers, the administrative costs. So 100% of all contributions that come to this fund will be going to small business. There's no administration, there's no overhead. 100% of the contributions go to small businesses in Mississippi. The governors who have joined us today are all honorary board members. And Brian and Marie have also put together an incredible list of advisory board members. And I want to add that I'm humbled and honored to be serving in that capacity. So with all that said, let's get started. I'm curious, governors, what are you up to these days? Let's get to that right off the bat. Let's start with Governor Mabus.
I'm hunkered down with my 19-year-old who just finished her freshman year at the University of Chicago online, and I'm incredibly busy. I've got this really originally named organization called Mabus Group. I serve on a couple of public boards. I advise a bunch of other companies, and I'm doing some other nonprofit work. I'm on the board of Jose Andreas's World Central Kitchen that's helping feed people around the United States and around the world. So it's a strange world we're living in, but it's a very fascinating and busy world for me.
Well, thank you very much. Governor Musgrove, what are you up to these days?
Several different things. I probably do not travel as worldwide as Governor Mabus does, but I practice law mainly. It's something that I've always done. I've always enjoyed doing. I still litigate a lot. Just finished up a long trial, so I also do some consulting work and some teaching. One of the things that I've done for the last several years is to chair the advisory committee on rural health in America. That's something that's very important to me because most all of Mississippi is rural. Most all of us have a lack in some shape, form, or fashion of health care. So that's a lot of work that I've enjoyed doing, and it's a pleasure for me. My wife still is a professor today at Ole Miss, and she's teaching special ed and School of Education. So we're very busy with that as well.
Good, thank you. Governor Barbour.
Well, Ricky, when I left being governor 8.5 years ago, I went back to the lobbying firm in Washington that I started when I left the White House in 1987. It's called BGR Group. The founders were Barbour, Griffith, and Rogers. And it's still there. In fact, I'll have to say it's a whole lot better when I went back than when I left. And a lot of people deserve a little credit for that. Interesting work, and it's very enjoyable. I try to stay politically involved where I can, but right now I'm trying to make sure I can take care of my grandchildren when I'm gone and they need it.
Yeah, well, good. And Governor Bryant.
Ricky, thank you. And it's great to be here with these governors. I don't get enough time to say hello. It's a fairly small group that we have of former governors. Now I'm glad to be in that former governor group. I've got a small firm with my former chief of staff. So it's Bryant, Sanji, and Snell and my daughter. So we're a small business. Right now we have 1 employee and 2 partners. So we're working hard. We do primarily economic development. I have 4 projects. All of them hopefully coming to the state of Mississippi, building plants, investing here. So that's what I do, is go find companies. I will say now I took 2 of them away from Louisiana. I'm proud of that. I maybe don't want to tell John Bell Edwards that just yet until we get closed, but all of them are bringing jobs. All of them are making tremendous investments. That's what we love to do, some public policy work. I just got off a conference call with Jobs for American Graduates. I've been on that board. This is my 4th year with Jack. I love it. So continuing some philanthropic, as these other governors are, donating their time and their talents and their treasure. And it is more of an opportunity for us to be able to do that, such as the 30-day fund. So I'm honored to be a part of this great movement that's helping small businesses across Mississippi.
Hey, Phil, I was the one that brought Jobs for America's Graduates to Mississippi, and I'm so proud that all 4 governors on this call have supported that incredibly great program.
Well, thank you, Governor. It has made such a difference. With graduation rates over 90% now with our Jobs for Mississippi graduates. So we're trying to make you proud.
That's amazing. All of you were tireless in your efforts as governor, and it's amazing to see that as you're getting up there in life, you're still tireless in your efforts. And I guess it's in your DNA. There's no stopping in any of you guys. You know, I have to say on Coast Vue that these are strange times. You alluded to that a second ago, Governor Mabus. The pandemic has really changed our lives in so many different ways. I'm curious about how it's changed yours. Governor Mabus?
When I left Navy, I was the most traveled senior executive in U.S. government history. I went 1,342,544 miles visiting sailors and Marines, 152 different countries around the world. I have not traveled since the 1st of March. In fact, I haven't left my house much. Haven't been to the office at all. And so it's changed just my rhythm and the way that I work. It seemed like I'm regressing back to law school after the Navy, where I got a haircut once a year, whether I needed it or not. And, but, you know, we all make, it seems strange. And if you'd have told me 2 months or 4 months ago that this is the way I'd be working, I wouldn't have believed you. But yeah, you adapt. We're very efficient. In fact, I'm probably busier now than when I was going into the office every day, and when I was getting on airplanes every 2 or 3 days.
Governor Mabus, I hear that almost every day on my show, where people who are working remotely have found that they're actually more productive than they've ever been in their lives, whether it's economic development people, whatever. They're just focused and they're having more conversations. They're improving relationships. It's pretty interesting to see how life has changed. And to some extent, some of those things that we're doing now, I think will never change, because we've found a new way to do things, and we'll be more efficient, I think, in the future. Governor Musgrove, how's life changed for you?
Well, Ricky, it has changed a good bit, but I will tell you, for all of us, being around people, visiting with people, interacting with people is part of our DNA as well. Every guest you have on this morning feels that way. And so it's a huge change for us. One of the things I've been able to do is spend more time with 6 grandchildren and watch them, interact with them, and slow down a little bit with them. Like the rest of the governors on this morning, very busy, but also enjoying kind of slowing down at the house. I think it has consciously made me do that and to listen more and to try to be a better person as a result. My mother would say I have a long way to go in that, but you know, that's part of it. I've enjoyed that. That's been really good for me, and hopefully it's been good for our family as well.
Yeah, I hear that a lot as well, Governor Musgrove, that people are reconnecting with family and friends like never before. They're getting to know their neighbors better. You know, they used to come home from a rush day and run into the garage, and, you know, they would be, you know, go straight inside, shut the garage door and not see their neighbors. And today they're actually out in the yard a little bit more, talking across the property lines with neighbors and whatever. Hey, when we come back from the break, we'll continue our conversation and we'll see how life has changed for Governor Barbour and Governor Bryant. So we'll be back after this break.
Listen live or on demand and watch episodes of Coast Vue on your laptop, desktop, or on your phone or tablet by going to supertalkmsgulfcoast.com.
Now back to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. Today is a really special day for Coast View. We have Governor Mabus, Governor Musgrove, Governor Barbour, and Governor Bryant all at the same time. We're talking about the pandemic. We'll be talking in a few minutes about the Mississippi 30-Day Fund. And right now, we're actually entertaining the question that I asked before the break about how life has changed for them in the pandemic. We heard from Governor Mabus and Governor Musgrove. Now let's turn to Governor Barbour. How has life changed for you, Governor?
Well, Ricky, of course, it's a gigantic change, and particularly for me, since my principal office is in Washington, but Marcia and I still live in Yazoo City. And and Marcia says hello to all her friends on the coast. She really, really made a lot of friends there in 2005. But Marcia says the secret to our marriage, and we've been married 48 years, is that I've been gone 41. And she said now all of a sudden she got me back in March, cold turkey, as she put it. So we're getting used to being around each other a lot more. I think on a serious note, one of the issues is how much of the change that we and everybody else in America has undergone is going to carry over and may result in fewer people working in jobs that are done remotely, and maybe we've learned that we have a lot more capacity. I don't know the answer to those things, but I know those are questions that are going to arise as we go forward.
Yeah, those are going to be some tough ones for sure. And send our blessings to your wonderful wife. She was a part of coastal Mississippi after Hurricane Katrina, and wow, what she poured her heart out to the people of coastal Mississippi. Governor Bryant, how's life changed for you?
Well, our life changed pretty dramatically this year anyway. And so in January, we moved into a new home in the Allen community down in Copiah County, where my wife's family's from. We love being in the country. I was no longer governor, which takes a little bit of adjusting. I'm sure your other guests may say it's just not something that you get over overnight. So you have to work at that. New home, new job, but working remotely, going right into this COVID event, I think helped. It kept me at home. It let Deborah and I spend more time together. We actually started having dinners together. We would invite neighbors over, just our family, to come and join us. So that time with our grandchildren, as everyone's saying, the personal time gave me more tractor time, but also time to reflect on my faith. So I had more time in the morning for devotional. I was not running downstairs to take on the day of being governor, but reflecting on just now 915 Mississippians that have lost their lives due to COVID. Over 20,000 total cases just now, 20,000 cases in Mississippi, seeing how it affected small businesses and thus looking for a reason to go out and help. So you feel like, what can I do? How can I give something back? We're all first responders here, each one of us. So when something happens, you go to it. You lean in, as everyone says. So trying to understand how we could lean in as a former governor and help. And so the 30-day fund came along and gave us that opportunity. I first heard about it from Sarah Huckabee Sanders, a friend of mine. I called Sarah and said, how do we get started? And then Marie reached out to us and already found out they were weeks ahead of us, Brian and Marie. And I think it's a God thing that they were sent here for this purpose. So life has changed, but much of it has been for the better. Even in these difficult conditions with all our Mississippians, we're pulling together as one Mississippi, as we always do in times of tragedy.
Yeah, that is so true. So interesting, because each of you talk in terms of how you've personally reflected in this moment. It's really given us all a chance to kind of remind ourselves what in life is really important. And then the other thing is, you're natural leaders. You can't help it. You want to know what you can do to help the situation. And I feel a lot the same way. I've always tried to give my leadership when I can, and maybe this show is a way for me to be able to provide that. I was catching up this morning on Stitcher. Steve Azar, you know him all of you know him. He's got a show on SuperTalk called In a Mississippi Minute, and I was catching up on some shows that I had missed, and the one I ran across and listened to this morning was Steve Azar's conversation with Marty Stewart. It was really great. Two authentic Mississippians having this great conversation about why they love the state. And as y'all know, they've done such a great job of representing Mississippi in their recording careers, and they really do love the state. Well, Steve said that there's so much that he loves about this place, but he really loves the people. He says getting to know them. He says, he says to Marty, we've been all over the world, but there's just something about the people in Mississippi. Then Marty says to him this, which I thought was really, really incredible. He said that he loves Mississippi, but more than anything else beyond geography and the natural feel of the land, it's the quality of the people, the heart of the people, that thing in Mississippi that no place on earth has except us. I thought that was pretty powerful. But there is something special about the hearts of Mississippians, isn't there? Governor Mabus, what do you think of when you think of the hearts of Mississippians?
Ricky, I'm a fourth generation Mississippian. My children are fifth generation. And I think about the things that have affected me so much personally. My mother died, and my high school classmates from Ackerman put together the food and everything, because I lived in Jackson then, and my mother lived in Jackson then. The way that people reach out, somebody said it's a place where people care when you're sick and know when you die. That they care about you as an individual. They care about you as a human being. They care about not just you, but your family, and how you react to hardships and how you react to joy. Going out, one of the great privilege of my life was being governor of Mississippi, and just the ability to talk to thousands and thousands and thousands of Mississippians on a daily basis. And Governor Musgrove was right. It's in all of our DNAs to want to be out there, to want to be listening to people, to want to hear their stories. But there is something special about Mississippi. And one of the things I learned when I was Secretary of the Navy, tearing around all over the world, every time I would go on a ship, every time I'd go on a base, the first people I'd see would be the Mississippians who were there. And it was more special for me than it was for them, but it was terrific to see them representing us so well around the world.
That's so awesome, and I can't agree more. Governor Musgrove, what do you think of when you think of the heart of Mississippians?
I think of when I was a child, my grandfather on my mother's side was a sergeant in World War I. He was about 225 pounds, about 6'2". Loved the St. Louis Cardinals, listened to all 162 games. And I remembered listening to him before he died about being in the war and how important it was to fight for our country, to fight for our state, and then he came back to our state. And the people in Mississippi are not without flaw. None of us are saying that Mississippi is the perfect place and that we have no drawbacks and no problems. We do. But people reach out, as Governor Mabus said, as Governor Bryant said, they reach out with an open hand and an open heart to help people when people are in need. And I believe our response so many times is one of our greatest assets. Governor Barbour will tell you that in times of tragedy like Katrina, we had people in Mississippi stepping up every place. When you're governor, you're expected to lead, but other people will follow if you provide the leadership. And we have so many that do that. And I am so proud of Mississippi and the way that she responds.
Wow, what a great story. Thanks for sharing that. Governor Barbour.
You know, Ricky, it fell to me to be governor during Katrina, as Ronnie said. And the one thing not one thing, but one of the many things you learn in the mega disaster, which Katrina was, the worst natural disaster in American history, is most people in crisis and catastrophe brings out good in them. Not everybody, but most people, the good comes out in them, and they help their neighbors and they help their community. And boy, did we see that in Katrina. I mean, we saw people who didn't have anything before the storm, lost everything they had, and then they were worried about the little old lady across the street who was shut in, about her getting help. And it's a wonderful thing. And I'm not saying it's unique to Mississippians, but I will make this point. Since 1870 and every census through 2010 for nearly 150 years, Mississippi has been the poorest state per capita in the country. It is also noted as the most generous state in giving to philanthropy. And that speaks volumes of what I saw, what Marcia saw during Katrina. People who didn't have much, just as generous and sometimes more generous than very wealthy people. And candidly, one of the differences here, because what Brian and Marie are doing is wonderful. A lot of times in Katrina, people were giving away their time. And time is something you hadn't got any more of. And so I feel myself fortunate to have had a chance to be the governor of Mississippi and to see that firsthand. And a lot of Americans saw it, I will tell you.
Yeah, they sure did. There's no doubt about that. Hey, we're talking about the heart of Mississippians with 4 governors as we speak. And when we come back from this break, we'll hear from Phil Bryant and understand, what he thinks of the heart of Mississippians. We'll see you after this break.
Subscribe for free to the Coast Vue podcast on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Reminding you why the Mississippi Gulf Coast is such a great place to live, work, and play. This is Coast Vue with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast Vue. We've got 4 governors with us today: Governor Mabus, Musgrove, Barbour, and Bryant. And when we went to the break, we were talking about the heart of Mississippians. We had heard from Governors Mabus, Musgrove, and Barbour. And now let's turn to Governor Phil Bryant and see, what do you think about when you think about the heart of Mississippians?
Well, like all the other governors, and I think most people that you may talk to about Mississippi, they think about the people. These are some of the most amazing people, family and friends. We're just a big, small town in Mississippi. So if you stand and talk long enough, you're either going to be kin or you're going to know somebody they know. And then they're going to invite you to come have supper with them, have a cup of coffee. They're loving people. It just comes down to the most loving people you've seen. And I think this has been one of their challenges, because with the COVID, they want to go to whoever has this terrible disease and take them food and visit with them, and they can't. So that's been a real challenge for us. So the giving opportunity of what can we do? I have people, and I'm sure the other governors do, I have a lot of opportunity now to visit Walmart and a tractor store. And I love that because I get to interact with all the wonderful people there. And they will come up and say, what can we do? How can we help? They want to help. It is natural to Mississippians to want to help their neighbors and their friends and their family. We've seen it from Katrina to disasters, the tornadoes and hurricanes and floods that I had as governor, the other disasters that the other governors tried to help manage. It were the people that was the first responder, the real first responders, the first people there, whether it's a fire or a fire, a flood, a disaster, is your neighbor. They're going to come over. How many times have we heard, well, my neighbors pulled me out, the house crashed around me, we didn't think we were going to make it out of this tornado, and next thing I knew, my friend or a stranger stopped their truck and came pull me out. We're stopping our trucks and we're trying to help pull people out and find more that we can do as Mississippians helping one another.
It's truly amazing, the heart of Mississippians. And thanks for sharing that. So we're going to talk about the Mississippi 30-Day Fund, but before we do, this is kind of a rapid fire round. I often talk about on my show that Mississippi's got an opportunity to send a message to the world that we're a really safe place to visit, that the businesses and the people here get that. And as long as we keep our COVID numbers down, I think it's going to send a message that we come on in and visit us. And for people who live here, it's an opportunity to do a staycation and go visit, some of these places in Mississippi you haven't been to before, from the Blues Trail to the Mississippi Gulf Coast. What's one attraction that you would tell people to go see? Just kind of rapid fire, and then we'll turn the page to the Mississippi 30-Day Fund. Governor Mabus, what's one attraction that you hold up there as one of the best?
Delta Blues Trail.
Yeah, I'm with you there for sure. How about you, Governor Musgrove?
Bigby State Park, beautiful part of our state.
Well, there you go. And Governor Barbour?
It would have to be the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum. We're the only state in the country where the state itself funded the building of a civil rights museum, and I think it's something Americans can learn from, like Mississippians can learn.
I've had several conversations about the situation in America today, and several people have sent me private messages to say that person may not have said that if they'd have gone to the Civil Rights Museum and seen that. And what a great opportunity to sort of demonstrate to people the history and to some extent why we're in the place that we're in today. Governor Bryant, what's that one thing that you think of?
If I could just encapsulate the Gulf Coast. Deborah and I have been down the last 2 weekends. We get to just escape by ourselves. It is remarkable. Whoever I have ever brought down, or the conventions that we've had, people are amazed. They come back and said, I had no idea what this beautiful coast looked like. So yeah, I'm probably going to get in trouble at the Civil Rights Museum. Obviously remarkable, the locations the other governors talk about, but the coast is so Mississippi. It's our vacation place.
Yeah. Well, we have so many amazing places, the history and the culture, the music. I mean, in every corner of the state, there's something special.
You got to go to the Delta.
You got to go to the Delta. Love the Delta. So let's switch gears to the 30-Day Fund. Governor Mabus, why did you decide to sort of lend your name and your leadership to this effort?
Well, there are a bunch of reasons. One is it really touched me personally because my dad and uncle owned the hardware store in Ackerman, where I grew up, and they would have qualified for this fund. I think they would have if you counted them as 2 employees, because they only had one other person working there. But the notion that this is going to help some of these very small businesses that really are the heart of Mississippi. They're the heart of our communities. They're where we get together. They're where we don't just go to trade, but to visit. And they mean so much that, I shop at Walmart like most people do, but I also like to go to the local hardware store and to the local restaurant and the local bakery and this sort of thing. And the fact that this is Mississippians helping Mississippians, and the fact that this is reaching out to to our friends and our neighbors, and that we are trying to reach those that have been most affected by this terrible time. And one of the things I talked to Marie about was, that minority communities have been more affected by this illness and by the economic collapse that has gone along with it. And the fact that a lot of this fund is aimed at those most vulnerable businesses, minority-owned, women-owned, things like that, I think shows what you talked about before, the heart of Mississippi. And I just want to brag on the people who started this. I mean, the four of us have the easy job. They're the ones doing it day to day, and they're taking zero money for doing it. And that is 100% of the money goes to these businesses. And that's something that I think we all ought to be proud to be a part of.
Well, thank you very much. And they are a great example of what it means to step up and lead by example. Governor Musgrove.
Ricky, regardless of where the four of us live today, all four of us grew up in small Mississippi towns. All of those towns are defined by those small businesses. Many times we will refer to a town as, oh, that's where a certain restaurant is. That's where a certain place is. But there are certain places that really do mean something, and they're those small businesses that make up the towns. To me, they were already challenged before the pandemic. And since the pandemic, it's been a lot worse and a lot harder. A lot of the businesses are able to use some of the federal and state help, but a lot of these small businesses are not. To me, the 30-day fund is the perfect vehicle by which we can help these small businesses to kind of maybe cover that gap that we find right now and get them through this difficult time so that they can prosper afterwards. So for us to be able to help is just another way for us to say to Mississippi, let's get through this. We're here to help. And if this can help you, that's great.
Yeah, exactly. I think very well stated. Governor Barbour.
Well, I agree with you, Rick. It was very well stated. Ray and Ronnie both talked about the truth of Mississippi, small businesses and small towns. But I will tell you that the reason that I did this is because of Marie and Brian. After she left Senator Cochran's office, Marie came to work for me in the governor's office. And I watched what she did, the heart she's got, and somehow she stumbled into marrying Brian. And he worked in the Katrina. He left his real live job and worked in the Katrina recovery for a long time. So I've watched both of them work and understand that they've got sense enough to make this work. And I will just close by making a point here that I think is really important. Most of these businesses were forced to close for some period of time after the pandemic, not because they did anything wrong, but just because it was a way to try to keep more people from catching the virus. So they got business problems and financial problems for no reason of their own, nothing they did. And so watching this young couple find the right people means a lot to me, because I know those people that are being helped, their problem was not of their own making.
Yeah, I think Marie and Brian, I talk about them all the time. They're a great, they're a dynamic duo, and they're gonna mean a lot to Mississippi in this effort. We're lucky to have them. Governor Bryant.
Ricky, while we've been talking, I just got a text from Glenn McCullough, the former director at MDA, and Mississippi's been awarded a 4th gold shovel. So that's by the Area Development Partnership, and gold shovels are coveted, but it's normally for larger industries. But the small business is the heart of Mississippi. They employ more people than the factories and the large industries that all these governors help bring to Mississippi. It is where the Mississippians work. And I think about not only the owner who's working on that small margin, and my brothers, one owned a barbershop and the other one owned a small equipment company. My dad was a mechanic. I think about the people working for them. I love and admire the people who work for small businesses. Just now there's a little restaurant in Hazelhurst, Starks, and we love to kind of go there, and they bring it out to the car now, and we may be able to go back in. But I love to see them. They get a smile on their faces, and they don't have to work. Think about this. They may say, I could draw unemployment, I could do something else, but they work in these small businesses, and small businesses is real work. It's blue collar stuff. It's your shoulder against the wheel. And so we're doing this for the workers, the small business owners, but also the people that work for them that are like family to the owners of those small businesses.
So this is Governors Mabus, Musgrove, Barbour, and Bryant. We're talking about the Mississippi 30-Day Fund. We'll be back after this break.
His love for the coast is why he's here. It's Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We have a special day today with Governors Mabus, Musgrove, Barbour, and Bryant talking about the Mississippi 30-Day Fund. And Marie and Brian Sanderson are also with us, and they're sort of the brainchild. They're the one who brought this to Mississippi and got all of us involved in the effort. So Marie and Brian, let's touch base on a couple of things. First of all, what kind of businesses are getting funded so far?
Well, so far we've funded a bakery, we funded an event management company, we have funded a children's rehab center, restaurants. So it runs the gamut really of the type of small businesses we're trying to help.
And the demographics?
It's been, true to what the governor said, over 60% of the awardees so far have been African-American owned businesses, 60% owned by a woman. So it's, it really shows you the heart and fabric of what makes up Mississippi small businesses.
So you've received about 1,500 applications so far. How does someone apply?
Go to Mississippi30dayfund.com. That's MS30dayfund.com. And you can apply there, and you can also donate there. So if you're watching the show and you want to get behind the cause, you may also donate money on that website as well to help small businesses.
So Marie and Brian, what kind of companies, what kind of people are contributing so far?
It's individuals. We've received some corporate donations, which we're very thankful for, but it's ranged from $30 to
30,000.
30,000. Yeah. So it's been a great outpouring. Some folks, have, we don't know who they are, but they've seen about it and want to help in whatever way they can.
Remember, 100% of the donations go to small business, and we'll put a link to your website so people can either donate or they can apply. And, unfortunately, we're getting near the end. But what I often say on my show is that resiliency is in our DNA, that after Katrina, we learned that buildings don't make a community, the people do. And as we've talked about on this discussion today, Mississippians are some of the most generous in the world, frankly, certainly in the United States. But we live in a special place, and we're incredibly resilient, and we will get through this, won't we, Governor Mabus?
We will. Mississippi has been resilient for hundreds of years now, and every one of the four governors on here have faced hardship and trying times. We will get through this. It won't be easy. These things never are, but follow the facts, follow the science, and we will get through this.
Anything to add on that, Governor Musgrove?
Yes, I believe that Marie and Brian are just two examples of Mississippians that make a difference, that would be Exhibit A to the DNA of Mississippi, being generous, being thoughtful, and being helpful. And I want to say thank you for being on. I believe that their actions, hopefully our actions, and what we've seen throughout Mississippi shows the fabric of the communities that make up our state, the love for our state, and the fact that we want to see everyone get through this. So if we continue to work hard and do the kind of things that Marie and Brian are doing, then we'll make it.
Yeah, I think that's so well put. Governor Barbour.
Marie and Brian, thank you. thank you for doing this. You're helping a lot of people, but you're also examples of the coast. We talk about resiliency, Ricky. I mean, the coast bore the front of the worst natural disaster in American history. And here, 15 years later, it's come back bigger and better than it ever was before. That's what resiliency is all about. It isn't about brick and mortar, it's about people, what's in people's hearts, and then care.
Got about a minute left. Governor Bryant, wrap that up with a nice bow.
Well, my first term, the theme was Rise Together, because I'd seen Mississippi rise, as Governor Mabus said, for the last 200 years. And after Katrina, we saw that. People thought we were on our knees, and we rose together. And we will rise through this. I think of a 78-year-old friend of mine that had COVID. About a week later, he showed that he sent me a photograph. He was on the tractor. And so, yeah, we are tough, determined people, and we will rise together through this COVID crisis. And with Brian and Marie's help, we're going to help a lot of other people do the same.
Brian and Marie, closing thought?
No, thank you. Thank you to the governors for their time. Our board, our large boards on our website across the state, thank you. And to Ole Miss and Mississippi State, who have given us over 30 volunteers to process the multitude of applications. We can't do it without Ole Miss and Mississippi State.
That's incredible. I'm honored to have had this opportunity to visit with each of you, and I look at each of you, and I had terrific relationships in my professional career with each of you. I've always been inspired by you, and it's been absolutely an honor to reconnect with you around this fund. And I'm confident that this fund will make a difference, because we want 100% of the money to go to the people that need it. And you need an effort like this that fills the gaps. There's so many gaps, and it's going to make a difference. So if you want to give, please consider giving. If your business is doing well, think about those who may not be doing well, and figure out how you can play a role in this effort. So anyway, thank you guys for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Governors.
Thanks, Rick.
Follow SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on Facebook, facebook.com/SuperTalk MS Coast 103.1.